I'm curious, could you please tell me more about what happened to those animals on the 66 farms that are being evacuated? And what type of farms are they? Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. So there are 66 farms registered with livestock that are under evacuation order, and the Emergency Operations Center and the associations that represent those farmers are working on a plan to deal with the current situation. It's a mix of poultry, dairy, hogs, and a number of other types of animals. But there's one of the things that I'd like to say about 2021 compared to now is that there's the type of communication has significantly improved. And so myself as minister, our ministry, local government, the associations, there's a lot more information that's flowing. And so we're all very up to speed on each particular farm and where they are. So yeah, I'll be able to have more updates on that as the 12 hours goes on.
And also for the poultry farmers, are their chickens are they all safe, or are their livestock, they are all very safe and sound? Or yeah.
I would say at this point in time, the animals are safe. Yes.
Thank you. We will now switch to online. Keith Blandry, Global News. Keith, go ahead.
And highway into Metro Vancouver was closed.
Keith, can you please? Keith, sorry, can you please restart?
Yeah. So for Minister Green, last night pretty well every road and highway connecting Metro Vancouver with outside Metro Vancouver was closed, even though, as the briefing made clear, there wasn't a heck of a lot of damage in many instances. So is this a result, or were the closures a result of an abundance of caution, or is this a new policy going forward that when we have atmospheric river events and warnings that road closures automatically kick in?
Road closures are considered in order to keep people safe. It's not something that is taken lightly and is absolutely done to make sure that we're keeping the traveling public safe as they undertake their journey. For more details on assessments and the state of roads, I can turn it over to Janelle.
Thank you, Minister. Absolutely. We take closing roads with a great degree of care and consideration. We are certainly aware of different stretches of the corridors, particularly on Highway 99 through the Fraser Canyon, where there are historical areas where we know there's a risk of debris. And in those areas, when we reach thresholds of moisture in the soil and the ground and continued precipitation, it's at those points where we do make the decision to shut down the highway to make sure that we don't expose the traveling public to risk. So it's definitely a delicate balance between keeping folks moving, but at the end of the day, the safety of folks traveling through there is the number one priority. And we do rely heavily on our experts as well as our experience on the corridor to make those decisions.
Keith, have a follow-up?
Yes, for Minister Popham. Minister, you talked about how we're better prepared now for worst case scenarios than we were in 2021. Can you point to what you think is a single, if there is a single biggest change for the better in terms of being better prepared for a disaster than we saw in 2021?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what I've been hearing through the associations, through the BC Agriculture Council, is that it's the communications piece that is absolutely critical. Last time, I think, there was many things that snuck up on us. And this time, I think people feel very prepared. Installing emergency management specialists in associations is also a really critical piece of that. And as I said earlier, they've been running emergency scenarios over the last number of years. And so when it comes to moving dairy cows, for example, it takes inventorying the number of cattle liners that it takes to move from one area of the valley to the other. Right now, I think there's been a small portion of one dairy that has had to move its cows, but it's having the equipment in place, having a plan in place, and that really helps to alleviate some of the fears that farmers have, especially if we go into another event. Like, they're feeling very nervous, but they are continually telling me that they're definitely more prepared than last time.
Our next question is from Katie DeRosa, CBC News. Katie, go ahead.
Hi, this question is for Minister Green. Residents in the Sumas Valley are wanting more of a push on the Americans to better prevent the river from reaching into our borders. What more is the government going to do about that to coordinate with our counterparts in Washington State for their flood prevention?
Mm-hmm. We have, since established in 2023 in October, the Transboundary Flood Initiative, and that has been very helpful in terms of improving the communication and coordination across the border. Washington State understands that they need to work on flood mitigation and de-risking on the Nooksack, but that kind of work is definitely going to take time. And in the meantime, we need to be more prepared on this side. And so some of that coordination and information sharing really helps improve our emergency response and be able to plan our flood mitigation on this side of the border.
Katie, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, please. To what extent has everyone been following evacuation orders, and what happens if people are not evacuating as if they are under that order?
Evacuation orders are absolutely made as a last resort. They're to keep people safe, to save lives, and keep first responders safe. The issuing of an evacuation order is very serious, and I know that the public takes it very seriously as well. We have good cooperation from people who are evacuated and under alert. This isn't the first time that we've been experiencing flood risk in these areas. People are really familiar with the outcomes that can happen, and so the public is taking this very seriously and is very cooperative with local governments and First Nations who are issuing evacuation orders and alerts. I'll perhaps turn it over to Kevin Dunbar for any additional information.
Thanks very much, Minister. As you mentioned, the vast majority of people in British Columbians listen to local agencies and local authorities when an evacuation order or alert is in place. And I think that's really, really important that people are prepared to have their grab-and-go bag, to have their plan. They listen to local authorities and take action when there's an evacuation order. Those evacuation orders are there for a reason, is to keep people safe, to keep the public safe, which is our primary focus in any emergency. And it's also to keep the first responders safe as well. In this specific emergency, we do not have any reports of individuals not following evacuation orders. And we know that the local authorities, particularly in the city of Abbotsford, have been working tirelessly around the clock to go door to door, let people know about the risks, the evacuation alerts and orders. And all reports at the moment are that folks are safe. And that's something that we will continue to monitor and support our partners on. Thank you.
Our next question is from Mary Griffin, Check News. Mary, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I'm just wondering, looking at the forecast going into next week, there's a lot more rain coming. How much of a concern is that?
I'll turn this one over to David Campbell.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think when we look at the next systems coming at us and even beyond Monday, Tuesday, we're continuing to be in the wet season. We've got a lot of antecedent conditions that continue to challenge the river systems with saturated soils and obviously snow, as well as just the response in the rivers that we're seeing right now. We do have a little bit of time to create some room in the rivers, particularly through the Chilliwack, Benning Park region. So we should get a fair bit of space from that to accommodate the next round of storms. So not as concerned about there at this point in time. As it comes to the Nooksack, obviously it's a more complex system, and clearing the water out of the various sort of flat terrain around the sort of Sumas as well as Nooksack floodplain takes a little bit more time. And so that might be a bit more sensitive as we come into the weekend. Again, the river itself is going to drop, so we're going to need to see a pretty significant event to get the river back up again to get into spill conditions. At this point, we're not seeing a clear indication of that in the weather forecast, but the weather is looking to continue to be wet. So I think at this point, vigilance is important as we go through the coming week, and we'll continue to be monitoring and updating our sort of level of concern if we're seeing that those events have the potential for more or ongoing flood hazard.
Do you have a follow-up?
I do. It just seems like yesterday, the atmospheric river, I know there were warnings out. There was orange for the Fraser Valley. There was yellow for the island, but it seemed to sneak up. And over time, people started to realize, wow, this is a significant rain. Or is that just my sense? Or was there growing urgency that something was actually unfolding in real time yesterday?
Our folks at the River Forecast Center keep a close eye on not just precipitation, but conditions on the landscape. Most of the risk that we're seeing in the Sumas area is from the Nooksack overflowing its banks, which has been fueled by precipitation that is south of the border. We continuously monitor those conditions. We have additional monitoring stations on the Canadian side of the border. It's really important for us to take a holistic approach, not just precipitation, but other conditions as well.
Our next question is from Peter Mitham, Country Life in BC. Peter, go ahead.
Hello. This is a question for Minister Popham. Just given the ongoing avian influenza situation in BC, how are ministry staff, what steps are ministry staff taking to both respect those concerns and also, ensure that, also ensure that poultry are remaining safe from disease as well as the water at this time?
Yeah, great question. So that was the concern yesterday when our lab lost power and there was the threat of flooding happening. But our lab is up and running, and part of the really important role that the ministry plays is doing testing for avian influenza. That is, we're at full capacity today, so I'm not worried about that at the moment. The threat of avian influenza will continue to be with us for the next number of months, and that is playing out as well as this latest emergency. But I feel that as far as being prepared and doing everything we can, we're doing our best right now.
Peter, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, and I guess first, thanks for that. I guess I was more concerned with the flow of water and, of course, sediment from inundated land shifting around and possibly infecting barns. But at any rate, with premises ID, I imagine there's a pretty good coverage of that and pretty good compliance from the supply managed sectors on Sumas Prairie, and the flood affected areas. But we're just curious, in light of the recent Auditor General's report, how has the deficiencies either been increasing the risk in this particular situation, or how does this particular event highlight the need for better compliance with premises ID, Minister?
Yeah, so the premise ID right now is working just as it should work. So this is a program where farmers are registering what type of livestock they have at what locations. This information right now is being shared with the Emergency Operations Center in Abbotsford, and it really allows the local governments to plan for their next steps in evacuation orders, etc., knowing what they're up against. And so I think that's working just as it should. Every time we have an issue like this, whether it's flooding or fires, it really puts a fine point that the registration that farmers are required to do with premises ID is absolutely the right thing to do. It just allows us to be able to respond to the agriculture community the best we can at our level and at the local government level. But it's working well right now.
Great. And that concludes our questions.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody being here. For up-to-date information on emergencies, folks can visit emergencyinfobc.ca. For information on how to prepare for emergencies, including flooding events, visit preparedbc.ca. And before you undertake any travel today, I recommend checking drivebc.ca. Thank you.
And that concludes today's event.